What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Early Look. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on the social media platforms listed below or directly at WiseTake.com. If you're looking to take your DFS game to the next level, we are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community design. To make you a better DFS player, check us out at WiseTake.com. $2.50 all the cost to try us out with an NBA Day Pass, which includes access to our pre-lock live stream, in which we do 45 minutes prior to lock, take you up till lock to make sure you have the latest injury news. We literally are building our teams, kind of hanging out with y'all. Anyway, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Subscribe, hit the notifications bell. Don't miss out on any of the free content we put out here on our YouTube channel. Please hit the like button. Most importantly, share the show. The shares really help us out, allow us to continue to grow. And the more we grow, the more we're able to put in to our free content and our content in general. So please share if you can. Sharing really helps us out. And leave some comments, man. I've been appreciating the comments, good or bad. I don't care. Feedback is always good. Or even if you just want to talk about the slate, give me your thoughts on the slate. I tell you guys mine every night, right? So keep leaving the comments. I appreciate it and enjoy talking to a lot of you. All right. That being said, we've got 9 games. We're going to jump in it. We're going to start things off with Atlanta and Cleveland. Right out the gate, Trae Young looks pretty good, right? Looks like a pretty solid play. As does Clint Capella. Clint Capella, after a little cold spell, has been kind of picking things up. The minutes have been trending in the right direction. We know Drummond is not playing for Cleveland no more, so just going against Jared Allen, who was the center over in Brooklyn, along with DeAndre Jordan when they were terrible against bigs. So really good spot for Capella. Like I said, I really like Trae Young, and I think the price, whenever it's down to this point, is awesome. Cleveland, not a very good defensive team, right? I actually think Jared Allen on the other side of that is also in play. They did move Jared Allen to center on FanDuel, which sucks, but that's really where he belongs, so I guess we can't be that upset about it. Colin Sexton is pretty cheap. Atlanta not good defensively either. We expect Sexton with no Drummond. We expect Sexton and Garland to be the main catalyst of the usage. So I'm good with them. And really, John Collins is also in a really awesome spot at 6'8". I know Capella seems to have hurt his upside since coming here, right? He's not getting maximum minutes anymore. He's not being relied on to do all the big man work. And he's really been a defensive liability. We've seen him exposed by several power forwards. Tatum did it twice. Randall did it. Which leads us to Cedi Osman, who's 5,400 on FanDuel, 56 on DraftKings. He's been playing big minutes in competitive games. So if this game's competitive, you would expect him to continue to play those big minutes. And if he's going to be matched up with John Collins, while I think the matchup is phenomenal for John Collins, I also think it's decent for Cedi Osman because every power forward and their mother seems to go off against John Collins. I think Isaac Okoro is in play for value. Doesn't do a ton for me. Herter is a guy that's going to play a lot of minutes. Doesn't always do anything really, but he's going to get a lot of minutes. And on FanDuel, he ends up getting some pretty decent ownership most of the time. Does look like the minutes have been trending downward, but if Cam Reddish is ruled out, then that'll change. Reddish is probable, though. Reddish has actually played well. I know he's coming off a dud against Denver, but he's played well for the most part, and he remains cheap. Only 4,500 on FanDuel. 49 on DraftKings. If we do get guys out, okay, well, it looks like Taurean Prince is questionable. He's doubtful. Okay, we're good. I thought he was doubtful, so yeah. As long as Taurean Prince is out, then I think that's Osman should start at the 4. So back on to Osman. So actually, as you would expect in any Atlanta game, it seems like there's a lot of pretty good plays here. Detroit, Orlando. We will move on to next. Come on, man. I clicked the right button. That's on you. All right, so this should get interesting. Good spot for Vooch. Not really worried about the Plumlee defense. Vooch has a very strong perimeter game, which a lot of centers can't really hang with. Jeremy Grant's usage going to continue to be good. He just played Orlando. Things weren't going well, and he still recovered. Wasn't the greatest score you want, but he did recover to a degree. Fournier's looked really good. What I want to see, though, is he shooting really efficiently? Yeah, okay, so he's been just shooting lights out. Since coming back from his injury against the Knicks, 8 for 15 against the Knicks, so 53%. Against Golden State, 11 of 18, that's 61%. And then 46%. And he's been getting some peripherals, getting some assists, getting some rebounds. When the price gets a little too high on him, I typically want to bail. But I think we have to grab at least some, right? He's been playing that well. Terrence Ross, 5,400. Still got 31 minutes. I'm glad that they lowered his price on FanDuel. That's going to put him within our reach. 6.6 on DraftKings is tough, but you'll get him at low ownership if that makes you feel any better. Sadiq Bey getting minutes as well. Going with this youth movement. I think he's solid, right? Is he a world beater every game? No, but he's giving you some solid production, grabbing some boards, trying to do a little bit of everything. Mediocre. So Saban Lee played 32 minutes against Orlando, and had himself a decent little game. How much is Lee over here? 3,200 on DraftKings. So DraftKings fucked up, right? Now we're under the assumption that he's going to continue to get this run. I would think he is. 4 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 steals. Had 4 personal fouls against Orlando. So on FanDuel at 5K presents plenty of risk, especially if that's his upside. We're already kind of priced there, but on DraftKings they dropped the ball, priced him way too low. DSJ only 4,200. DSJ only played 15 minutes. That was just weird because against Memphis he played 23. So on FanDuel both those guys are kind of scary. On DraftKings DSJ seems still scary, but he is cheap and they could flip flop that at any moment. Meanwhile, Saban Lee on DraftKings is only 3,200, which just is crazy. Michael Carter Williams is very cheap on FanDuel at 4,500. Got 27 minutes. I'll continue to play Michael Carter Williams on FanDuel, but I do think so will everybody else. So I expect his ownership to be fairly high. Al-Farouq Amino, 3,500 on FanDuel. Played really well, even with limited minutes. That was a weird thing to see. 3,400 on DraftKings. We went for 31. He had 4 steals and 2 blocks in 18 minutes. I don't necessarily think that's something we could rely on each and every time, but he is still cheap. So I think this time, because of what he did, I think people will play him a little bit. But that kid is really cheap on DraftKings, 3,200. That just seems wrong. And Michael Carter Williams at 4,500 on FanDuel kind of seems wrong. But either way, I like Vooch more so on FanDuel, and I like Grant. I mean, those are your obvious plays, right? Sacramento, Brooklyn. Obviously a really good spot for the Nets and Kings. This game should be fireworks. The issue, of course, is there's severe concern that the Kings could get blown out here. But either way, we just want to play things straight up. Kyrie and Harden look awesome. Excuse me, the grind is real. I hate when I fucking yawn on this stuff, but the grind is real, man. Got myself a little 6-week-old baby, and she makes sure the sleep schedule is tight, if you know what I'm saying. Anyway, Harden and Irving definitely. De'Aaron Fox only 7.9 on FanDuel, 8K on DraftKings, definitely. His usage has been awesome. Halliburton's prices come up a little bit. I'm okay with it, but I'm not as into it. I feel like in blowout scenarios, he's a little bit more likely to do that dirty. I don't mind Richaun Holmes, but I don't love Richaun Holmes at these prices. Only got 21 minutes anyway, so it's not like anything crazy. Curious to see if Harrison Barnes plays. If he gets ruled out, then obviously that leaves an opening for Halliburton. And it also puts the Kings in a shitty situation because Barnes has actually been one of their better players this year, no doubt. This seems like a really good Marvin Bagley spot. With Kevin Durant still expected to be out, this seems like a really good Marvin Bagley spot. They keep taunting these minute restrictions on him, but then they play him on a back-to-back, and they play him almost 30 minutes. So I don't think it's nothing to worry about. I think Barnes being out is helping Marvin Bagley's upside. So that's something to be aware of, keep track of. Jeff Green is a game-time decision, right? Questionable. If he misses, he's been playing backup center. And he's playing a lot of minutes right now. But if he misses, he's been playing backup center. So that'll be interesting for DeAndre Jordan, for his sake. TLC also got hurt and didn't play much, 5 minutes. He's also questionable. So maybe we see one of these bench guys play a little bit more than we're accustomed to. We'll have to check. If there's a game that you want to take a shot on somebody, you would think it'd be one like this, a very fast-paced game that you would anticipate a lot of scoring. Now, I think Brooklyn are big favorites here. Keep that in mind. But this looks like an awesome game to stack, and I'm sure people will try that shit because it's one of the earlier games with a 7:30 lock. Boston-Dallas is also pretty interesting. It's back-to-back for Dallas. Luka Doncic, obviously, Looks like he's in a good spot. I would expect Kristaps Porzingis to play. Instead of back injury, I wouldn't be surprised if they were just like, nah, we'll just play tomorrow because they're playing Boston. If Porzingis plays, 7-8 on FanDuel is too cheap, right? I think so. 8-2 on DraftKings, probably a little bit more appropriate. I still like Tatum and Brown. Dallas has been just hemorrhaging fantasy points to everyone. Obviously, Boston a much better team. I'm good with Kemba. He's not as cheap on FanDuel anymore, which is kind of cool for the temptation purposes. I'm cool with him, though. As far as the Dallas guys, I think Jay Rich is certainly in play. I don't mind Brunson off the bench, but it did help, to be clear, it did help having Porzingis out. We kind of loaded up on these guys, and for the most part, it worked out well with a lot of them. But when we're assuming Porzingis is back, and if he is, then those guys kind of get pushed to the side significantly. But this looks like a pretty awesome game as well. So far, some pretty good games. Atlanta, Cleveland, Sacramento, Brooklyn, Boston, Dallas so far. We've had some good ones. Let's see what else we got. Golden State and the Knicks. Steph Curry has been sick. He's been ill. He's questionable. So I think he's expected to play. Expected to play in New York, but he's officially considered questionable. We'll see what happens with him. I'm good with Randall. This isn't a game that's like popping out at me too much, but I'm good with Randall. 8-8 seems kind of cheap on FanDuel. 9-3 on DraftKings, probably where he should be. Kelly Oubre at 7-6. The price on FanDuel's kind of come up. DraftKings, it is. He's bald. I don't want to, discredit what he's doing. He's been awesome. I'm okay with Draymond. I think he got ejected. He seems to be a little bit better when Steph Curry's in there, right? I'm fine with him. But Nerlens Noel is very interesting. He's power forward on FanDuel, which is always nice. DraftKings, he's center. It's always tough to sacrifice. But he's playing almost 30 minutes a game. Golden State doesn't have a center. So it's possible that they just go a little smaller here, or it's possible that Noel is able to grab a lot of boards and have some success. Now, he's a very low usage player. Wiseman is currently questionable with a wrist injury. We'll see what happens with him. If he were to really get run, I would really like Wiseman, especially on DraftKings. The Knicks have not been good against centers, but that's just something we're going to have to put on the back burner for now. Elfrid Payton, Quickly, and Rose. The issue is kind of figuring out who's going to play how many minutes, and it's difficult. They all have a decent amount of upside, but it's really just a fucking Russian roulette, really a dice roll. You don't really know who's going to end up getting it. RJ Barrett got back up to 34 minutes against Minnesota. That was good to see. His price is decent, I think, on both sides, where he's within reach. He's within reach, I would imagine. But all in all, I mean, first look, not a ton from this game that I'm like overly thrilled with, especially after we just talked about some of the other games. Philly, Toronto, picking up the pace again. I'm definitely going to be interested in Joel Embiid. We'll check the status of Kyle Lowry. What is up with Lowry? Questionable. If Lowry's out, we'll continue to play Van Fleet, though the price has been elevated a bit, at least on DraftKings. He's kind of been around this 8K range on FanDuel, but DraftKings raised him up to 8.5, which for him is a lot. Siakam, obviously, if Lowry is out, is a better play. If Lowry is in, it's going to hurt him a little bit, I think. I think Simmons had a really good game. Yeah, but still, even with that, like, not enough, I don't think. I think if, like, you're going Embiid, right? I definitely like Embiid. I mean, you got to have Embiid pretty much every slate he's on, at least a share of them. Boucher got 25 minutes. He did fine, but his price is at a point now where that's not good enough, at least on FanDuel. On DraftKings at 5.8, I guess you could argue that he got pretty damn close. And you can make a stronger case for him over there. It's just easier to play him on FanDuel normally because of the positions. Norman Powell did not have a good game. I would look for him to have a bounce back. Now, his minutes were down probably because he played like shit, but I would look for a bounce back from Mr. Powell. The problem with Powell is he's very scoring dependent. And as you can see, when he shoots 3 for 11, 1 for 4 from 3, and only gets 26 minutes as a result, that's kind of what's going to happen. But maybe a guy we could subtly work in. I don't like his price, to be flat out honest with you, but I think that'll cause his ownership to be low. OG did get 30 minutes against Philly. Didn't do as much as we would have liked with him, but he did get 30 minutes, and he's still relatively cheap for the amount of minutes we anticipate him playing in the future. So I'm cool with getting some exposure to OG still. One of the sickest names in the game. I think Danny Green had himself a game, right? Yeah, Danny Green did well. 23 minutes against Toronto. He played well. 5 steals, though. I mean, that's his thing. That's his thing. But relying on that's never fun, right? Seth Curry, we'll have to check his status as well. forgot to mention that he's got a little tag action on him. Where you at, Seth? Seth played well. He's probable. It's probable. Cheap value play on FanDuel. On DraftKings, 5-4 is steep. Yes, it is. But 4K on FanDuel certainly in play. But Embiid is the strong takeaway here, I think. For me, anyway. Minnesota and Milwaukee. We've got Giannis and Towns going at it. This should be actually pretty interesting. I do like Giannis, of course. There's always worry with Minnesota about getting blown out. There's always worry with Milwaukee about blowing people out. But Giannis has been fucking phenomenal. So I think we continue to play Giannis at a pretty high clip. Karl Anthony Towns did the dirty to the Knicks, which was really cool for us over the weekend. Big on him. Like to play centers against the Knicks. Only played 31 minutes and still did that dirty. So I'm cool with that. And he could certainly do something similar in this particular situation. Middleton also played really well. Another one of them games, and he's poised in this game to again do the same. Go figure, it was against Sacramento, which is another reason that I think that Harden and Kyrie seem so appealing. But Chris Middleton's certainly a decent play. Interesting spot for Malik Beasley, right? He's got a low floor, and if he's not efficient, he's very scoring dependent, so you're kind of screwed. But this is a situation where 3-point shooters get the best opportunity against Milwaukee because they like to collapse. So he's one of the guys that you can anticipate shooting a decent amount, right? Anthony Edwards at 5'8" has shown massive upside. I think he's an option. But with Cat there, he's going to be the guy that you want to go to the most, that you feel the most comfortable with. Rubio is fine. DiVincenzo is fine. If you think this game gets ugly, we could definitely go to some Bobby Portis. He hasn't been shown any upside lately, but we know what he's capable of. As if he gets some time out there, he could definitely do some 30s. But Giannis and Towns headlining, no doubt. Really good spot for Giannis, I think. But Towns could be kind of sneaky. His ownership's below. It has. Trust me, I know. Portland and Denver. It's a back-to-back for Portland. They just got destroyed, and now they're going into Denver. Not the greatest spot. Jamal Murray's been awesome. Jokic has been awesome. He had one bad game. I don't give him a break. He had one bad game. And he still managed to get to 41. It wasn't enough matchup, though. How'd you have a bad game there? I don't know. But I'm good with him. Michael Porter Jr. has just continued to troll everyone. Becomes chalk, especially on FanDuel, and find his way to not deliver. Now, against Atlanta, I don't think it was all his fault. He got into some foul trouble, and his coaches bailed on him and tried to let the second unit kind of play hero. Will Barton, however, at 5'2" and 5'3" on DraftKings, very interesting. I think we know what his floor could be. It's not great. It's not pretty. But 5'2" is pretty cheap. Portland's a team that has not played very good defense overall, and I think we can't consider. Monte Morris coming off a really good game. He's another one with a low floor. But because the game got ugly, they kind of let him go out there and do his thing, and his usage increased, yada, yada, yada. It was just a really good situation. Curious to see what the starting lineup is here. For Porter. Now, Porter starts at the 4. He is going to have his hands full, Robert Covington. But curious to see what they do. I think last time they started Zeke, who's 3,800, by the way, and played 29 minutes. But again, the game did blow out. So I think there was some, his usage is fucking horrendous. So there's some interesting plays here, mostly on the Denver side. I'm not that interested in the Portland side. You know, I love Dame as much as anybody, but I'm a little concerned. Back-to-back, going into Denver, all that good shit. Altitude, you know what I'm saying. Last but not least, Washington and the Clippers back-to-back for Washington. And it's a tough one. I mean, as we speak, they're playing, Westbrook, assuming he plays. I think he has played a back-to-back. Does have a beef. Has a little history with Patrick Beverly. Westbrook is only 9-2 on FanDuel, 9-8 on DraftKings. I could get into that because if you're gonna, could be an awesome game. It's similar to the Minnesota-Milwaukee. It could be great if it could stay close. That's a big if. If it does stay close, Washington has played well, mind you. But again, it's a back-to-back for them. And the Clippers have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard both healthy again. So that's obviously a very good team. But Westbrook, Beal and Westbrook, they're not staying close without at least one of these guys, and probably both of these guys are having a good game. That's just what it is. Interesting spot for Ibaka. I know Zubac has been playing a lot of minutes, and he's in play also. I want to discredit him. Matter of fact, we could look at Patrick Beverly. His minutes have been back up. We would think they're going to want him out there between Beal and Westbrook. They're going to want their best wing defender out there. So I think he gets a lot of run. It's kind of interesting. If the game stays close, this could be the nuts, right? But that's a big if. The Clippers are pretty good. One thing, you play the Lakers one night, then you got to play play a half banged up Lakers one night. Then you got to play a really healthy Clippers team the next night. That's a tough stretch. Interesting slate. You got some of the better matchups, DFS wise, with blowout risk. You've got some good ones, but then guys in back-to-backs like the Dallas-Boston game. You got Dallas on a back-to-back. You've got Sacramento, Brooklyn. Both teams had to travel across the country because Brooklyn was just on a West Coast road trip. And then even starting things off with Atlanta, Cleveland. There's some interesting games, but something that's going to require more thought, I think. Anyways, that's going to do it. Please hit the like button on your way out. Don't forget to share the show. The shares really, really help us out, guys. We need to grow this thing so we can provide more. I want to give as much as I can back to the DFS community, but I need support to do that. And all I'm asking you to do is, some share action. Hit the like button, leave some comments, subscribe. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.